Today is random story day with Daniel Whittington because I was thinking about this story because I was in Colorado a couple weeks. By the time you see this video, it will have been a month or so ago. Ah, what a great sound. And I'm kind of excited about talking about this one, even though, I mean, we've talked about Four Roses a lot in the past. So I was in the Rocky Mountain National Park a couple weeks ago. Amazing time. But it reminded me of a trip that we took to Colorado, not to Rocky Mountain National Park, when I was in elementary school. I had to have been somewhere around 4th or 5th grade. And I remember it because it's still a part of the memory of how Daniel grew up. And if my dad's watching this video, he's either going to be like, ah, that story, or like, oh, great, that story. So we went to, what's the Colorado? There's 3 towns that I've lived in 3 areas with a town that sounds a lot like this, and my brain always mixes them up. So it's Soledad, Salinas, and Salida. And I think it's Salida, Colorado. Soledad is up here by Austin, right? What's the town? What is that? It's Salado. Okay, so Salado is the one above Austin. That means I think Soledad is the one in Colorado. And, see, I can never freaking remember. We're actually just, I turned my phone off, so Mike is trying to Google it right now. I really should have written this down, but I forgot to write this part down. Yeah, Soledad is the other one I always mix it up with because Soledad is over by Santa Barbara, and it's a really beautiful town. Salida is the town. Man, I can, for the life of me, never get these straight. They're too dang close to each other. Beautiful town. We went up there, a family of 8 in a minivan, and all the way up, 14-hour drive. And the deal was that they were going to paint this house that friends of ours owned in exchange for us staying there for vacation. So we were there for like a week. They painted the house for the majority of the week, and then we did some vacation-y things. And one of the vacation-y things that we did was we went horseback riding. And we went on this long horseback ride that was, I think my memory says it was probably a 2 to 4 hour ride, like, because you can buy packages, the 1 hour ride, the 2 hour ride, the 3 hour ride, and so on. But this one took us through the woods and up onto a plateau. And it was amazing. I hadn't at that age, I hadn't ridden horses, maybe ever, if hardly at all. I got to ride more horses later when I was a little bit older, but this was brand new. I got my own horse. I was serious about it. I had a bandana. And, you know, it's summer in Colorado. Well, in Texas, summer's summer. In Colorado, it's summer, it depends. Like, you know, turns out elevation, it's a thing, said this little Texas boy. So we get up into the mountains, we get up into a plateau, and it goes from like a really nice, like 60s something or other kind of nice day to like 50s / lower, gusting winds. A storm front comes in, and it starts sleeting and like small hail, like pellet, like and the horses, they all start freaking out. I mean, as much as trail horses do. Like, these are not wild horses, but they're not happy. And I am, you know, I probably weigh 8 pounds. And my horse is like starting to buck, which looking back at my age, I'm thinking it was probably more just kind of like humping its shoulders and jumping around a little bit. To me, it was like, it's bucking. And so I yell out, Dad, help! My horse is trying to buck me off, Dad. And my dad, leave it to a novelist to give a speech in a time of crisis. My dad's horse, in his defense, is trying to rub him off under trees. Trying to get under trees. And like, so he's doing everything he can to keep his horse on the trail, not in the woods. And my dad says, Daniel, there comes a time in everyone's life when they have to figure it out for themselves. I'm like 10. I've got my own problems over here that I'm trying to figure out. This is that time. You've got to figure it out for yourself. I'm like, okay. And I don't know why that memory is, well, I mean, maybe I know why. That memory is very vivid in my brain, and it's very much a part of the Daniel DNA of, you know what? There comes a time when you've got to figure it out. And that phrase has just lived in my head since I was 10 years old. I've got multiple other stories where I was in a moment and then that phrase popped in my head and I went, here we go. I remember being stuck in the far southern edge of Berlin, not speaking a lick of Germany, in the dark, trying to get into an apartment building where I was supposed to be staying for the week with no idea how to contact anybody, no door code, and no real memory of what the apartment number was. And I remember that phrase popping into my head. Daniel, there comes a time and you got to just figure it out. And I did. That was a very complicated story. Anyway, let's talk Four Roses for a second. This whiskey is an old bottle. And I wanted to do it again. And we'll talk about Four Roses, but because the other day I was in the vault and we have this one in there because there was a time when you guys were sending us a lot of Four Roses. We have like 15 single barrels of Four Roses in there. And so I keep one in the vault and I keep the rest as backups. And as one goes away, we replace it. I don't have room in the vault to have 15 different single barrels of Four Roses. I just don't have room. So this one is actually pretty old compared to what's out there on the shelf. This was bottled in 2015. This was bottled 1 week before we started whiskey marketing school. The first whiskey marketing school class was September 23rd in 2015. This was bottled September 15th in 2015. How cool is that? And I picked it up, and I haven't had Four Roses in a long time. It's never been my default. Anytime I'm drinking bourbon, it never really occurs to me that I could drink Four Roses. It's just not on my radar. And so I saw that one down there, and I picked it up, and I was like, wonder how old, holy crap, that's really cool. And it was barreled in 2006, which makes it, 9 years old. Barrel number 14 for a specs selection. This is 59.8% alcohol, warehouse JE, barrel number 1-2F, 2 Frank. I picked this up and poured it and smelled it and went, man, that's way better than I remember. This is so fruity, but it's so chocolatey, and it's spicy, but it's not dry, and it's not herbal. And it's just rich. And I keep coming back to chocolate-covered fruits, like a chocolate-covered blueberry or chocolate-covered raspberries or chocolate-covered strawberries, all of the above. As a matter of fact, the other day I was sitting and just self-indulgently grabbing strawberries with a spoon of Nutella and just like, strawberry bite, spoon of Nutella, sitting there just scooping Nutella out of and that's what popped into my brain when I picked this nose up. Strawberry Nutella, fresh berries and Nutella. It's just, I picked it up in there and smelled this and went, man, I need to go back to trying some Four Roses again. This is real good. Now, for those of you who don't remember, they've got, 10 various ways? Anyway, look, the bourbon nerds in this group will remember, but my mind's going blank. They mix various mash bills and various yeast strains in order to create a very large variety of potential origin aging barrels, and then they blend those to create various products, unless you're getting a single barrel, and then you can get a very specific mash bill combined with a very specific yeast strain, and they all have different characteristics. And the real fans of Four Roses, they can tell you by memory the code and what the flavor profile is. This one is OBSV. This is their 35% rye mash bill. Oh, and a delicate fruity yeast. Probably should have read that beforehand. I wouldn't have been as surprised. See, this is what happens when you get a Scotch drinker to start drinking bourbons, and he can never remember all the things that the bourbon nerds are really excited about. I'm sorry. But man, is it good. It smells amazing. And I don't think I've opened this bottle since we did a review on it. So this has been sitting there It's lost nothing because we haven't been opening and closing and opening and closing. The palate is rich and oily and viscous. I need to get back to drinking more Four Roses. That was a mistake, a life mistake I've been making. Oh, yes. That's all I have to say. Yes. Yes. I would love to compare the OBSV right now, like if I could find one at a store from 2024 and compare it to one they released 9 years ago. I wonder what they're like. I'm going to put a little water in this one in a very, very haphazard, unmeasured way. Bloop. Okay. I'm going to tell you another story about that trip in Colorado because later in that week, or it might have been earlier, later in that, by the way, I did figure it out and we got down off the mountain. Actually, what they did was they sent a truck, a pickup truck, up to the plateau trail, and all of the kids who were all like crying and it's cold, and they stuck us in a truck with the heater running, and the adults took the horses and finished the ride. So Dad had to finish the rest of that ride after being hailed and sleeted on in the mountains. So, hey. On another part of that trip, we decided we wanted to go visit a ghost town. And so we head down this trail where the trail and the map had said, oh, it's just like 3 miles, 4 miles down this dirt road. Well, we start heading down this dirt road and turns out it's a mountain dirt road. And about halfway, we hit a hill on dirt that is so steep that the minivan full of 8 people will not go up it. And so we're sitting on the side of the road trying to decide, and this is my memory of this story. Dad might come in the comments and correct the whole thing. Whether or not we're going to keep going, should we just walk it? Are we most of the way there? And some dude drives by on a Jeep, and he's one of those like ghost town tour guys. He comes by, and we're like, hey, how far is it? And he is like, oh, it's just up around that corner. Well, turns out just up around that corner was 2 miles. And I was the oldest kid in the group, and I was 10 or 11. My sister was like 8 or 9, and then there was another 8-year-old and like a 5-year-old. And so we start walking, and it's not cold anymore. Now it's hot and dusty, and we're out, dry. And I'm whining at some level, probably too much. And about halfway down this trek, my dad spins around and grabs my shoulders and like nose to nose goes, Daniel, everyone here is dealing with the same things that you're dealing with. So suck it up. Quit whining. And then he turned around and kept walking, and I stopped whining, and we kept walking. And again, I don't know why that Colorado trip must have been the perfect age range where things were landing a little bit differently, that they stuck for me forever. But those 2 lines, there comes a time in everyone's life when they have to figure it out. And Daniel, everyone's dealing with the same thing you're dealing with, so quit whining. Those have sort of like been a formative part of Daniel Whittington DNA. And anyone who's known me over the last 20 years can hear those 2 sentences and go, oh yeah, absolutely. It's gotten me in a lot of trouble because I've put up with shit sometimes that I shouldn't have put up with for way too long because my brain was like, why whine? This is what everyone deals with. And then I started talking to people and they were like, wait, what? What's happening? And I was like, oh no, not everyone deals with this. But in other times, it's got me through really weird, hard stuff to just figure it out and power through. So I'm grateful for it, but they have their origins in the same trip to Colorado at the same age, which I think is kind of bizarre. And now you know a little bit of the Daniel Whittington backstory. With water, it gets a little more grassy and a little less fruity. Oh, and gets way sweeter. Don't prefer that at all. I liked it more when it had a little bit more of the tannins and the wood and the dried spice to the palate. This is like drinking candy, which I could see some people really love, but that's way too sweet all of a sudden. So don't add water to that one. Duly noted. Cheers to you. I'm really glad you're here. Also, if you need some life direction, you should like and subscribe. Oh, that sounds so pretentious. Oh.